fastest show in sports.
The National Hockey League, I got to tell you, Helene, I was at the Sunrise All-Star game a couple of seasons ago. I had never gone to an All-Star game, so I decided to actually go. It was right down the road. It was, with all these different competitions, it was the most boring thing I'd ever been to. It was just
Mhm.
dull. And I
Yep.
thought to myself, they got to do something here. They brought along the Four Nations, which was brilliant hockey. But all the players that were injured after the Four Nations, how are they going to continue this? I mean, they have got the Olympics in 2026. But even I'm thinking, so many key players, like I'm a Bruins fan, so Charlie McAvoy got hurt. He was out the rest of the season.
Mhm. Mhm.
What can you, is it worth it to basically take one of your star players and have them injured for the year when the Stanley Cup is more important than the Four Nations?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think it's one that every sport has been wrestling with. I mean, the Pro Bowl used to be kind of a big deal, and does anybody care about that anymore? I
No.
know they've tried different like skills competitions, and the NBA has done the same thing. I mean, I love the NBA, but I can't stand All-Star games. I won't watch them because if there's no defense, what's the point? I mean, who wants to watch a game of 164 to 161? It's like watching an old ABA game, you know.
Well, and,
Um,
and that's the thing that turned me off, I think, All-Star games at the beginning was the NBA. The NBA
yeah.
All-Star game is a joke. Now, you're right. If all you want to do is see absolutely no defense and see guys putting up threes and being given free lanes to the basket, but then again, I guess it makes it sells. I mean, that's at the
Does
end
it?
of the day, I guess it sells.
Does it?
Good question.
I mean, I'd like to see some stats on that, and I would suspect that all these leagues have tried all these things, and the NHL tried this like mini tournament kind of thing where it was division based, the All Star teams, and they'd have four All Star teams, and they'd play each other, and then the winners would play in a finale, and they made it interesting by offering $1 million prize money to the winning team. So that seemed to ratchet up the interest a little bit, certainly the interest among the players anyway. But even that grew old very quickly. I think honestly, all-star games are just an outmoded concept. If the players aren't gonna try, what's the point?
Well,
I know people say that, "Oh, fans love them." Do you really enjoy watching your favorite player not try?
it's a good point because those of us who've covered sports for any length of time know that there's a competitive level and a competitive nature of the athlete themselves. And we all know that when it comes down to all-star games, it's a gag. It's a joke. The players hang around, they spit stories around. Nobody wants to go spikes up into second or third base. Oh, by the way, do they slide anymore in baseball? I don't know.
Do they bunt anymore? Yeah.
I mean, do they bunt anymore? I mean, do they
Uh,
do anything that's really baseball in itself? But I can't think of any reason to want to go see it when all it is just it's a parade. But
yeah. And
I,
it's for sponsors. I mean, I get that, these leagues have, contracts with these huge companies, and the companies want, the company VPs or presidents want to be thought of as VIPs, and they bring in all these, corporate people and, treat them to dinners and all these things. And so it's become more corporate than it is for the fans. And I don't know the answer. I think the Four Nations tournament that the NHL had was an excellent idea, and isn't the NBA thinking about doing something that's nationality based?
yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, so you see, I mean, at least they're having the courage to try something new. Whether it
Well,
succeeds, I'm not sure, but at least you have to try.
well, let's get back to the Four Nations though for a second, and back to my main question, which is all of the players that were hurt. Kachuk was hurt for the Panthers. McAvoy was hurt
Mhm.
for the Bruins. I don't have all the list in front of me, but I know there were a lot of nagging injuries here. Fans loved it. It was an all-star game that actually for the first time had real live play. I mean, these guys were beating the crap out of each other, and it was solid hockey. But do you mortgage the chance to win a Stanley Cup just for what is basically an exhibition?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, although, you can go out on a random Tuesday night against Columbus and blow out your knee. It doesn't have to be in the Four Nations. I
But at
mean,
least it
you
counts.
yeah, it counts in, a Tuesday in February. But yeah, I mean, any game is gonna carry some inherent risk. And I mean, heck, how many times have you read about players getting injured in the shower or cutting their hands on steak knives or something like that? Although some of them I'm suspicious of, but that's another story, I guess. But yeah, but I mean, any sport, there's a risk, and you have to look beyond the individual to the greater good of the sport. Did the Four Nations tournament work for the greater benefit of the NHL? I would argue that it did, even though it had a lot of flaws. I mean, for example, Andrei Kopitar of the LA Kings is from Slovenia. And I think at the moment he may be the only Slovenian player in the NHL, maybe one other. There was one other, but I don't know if there still are. But, um, he didn't get to play in this kind of tournament, and he should have. The man has world-class skills, but there was no Slovenian team. So it was great hockey, and I was certainly skeptical of the whole thing before it began, but then I started watching it, and you could see these players cared. There was hitting, there was checking, there
Yeah,
was patriotism and national pride in that thing, and the level of hockey was absolutely outstanding.
I
So I think for
saw
the
a
moment,
yeah.
that's the best option.
That's the other point too. It's the best option because the All-Star game was boring in itself. The skills competitions, I remember going to the skills competitions. As I mentioned, it was one of the nights we went in Sunrise, and I wanted my money back. It
Yeah,
was we paid as fans to go there. I took my wife, and we're big hockey fans. I turned her into a big hockey fan years ago when we got together, and even she looked at me and said, "Is this it?"
yeah.
She said to me, "I'd rather go to." She said, "I'd rather go to an NBA game," and I hate NBA games. It was.
Wow.
She's
Gotta
not
work
an
on her
NBA
with
fan
that,
at
but,
all. She doesn't want to go. I indoctrinated her into the hitting of hockey, and those skills competitions were just awful. So moving forward, then though, is there any way to ameliorate that, Helene, that injury factor, or do we just take it as a fact that it's great, go with it, it's hockey? Well, look, when we get to the Olympics in 2026, these guys are going to go full bore. They're going to go all out when they're playing for their national teams. And that, again, is in the middle of a season that still may impact the Stanley Cup.
right. I remember one year, I forget which Olympics it was, but Joe Sakic got hurt and was out for a considerable time after the Olympics. But I think you have to look at the greater good, and an individual owner, like certainly the owner of the Bruins, wasn't happy Charlie McAvoy got hurt in the Four Nations. But again, you have to look at the greater good of the game. Does this grow the game? Does this attract more eyeballs? Does it attract more dollars? Does it attract more corporate support? And I think in the end, it will. I mean, I've always been a proponent of NHL players being in the Olympics. I think the NHL was stupid to skip the last two. And the reasons were because the time zone was not amenable to NHL and North American viewing. They were both in Asia. And I think going back to an Olympics where the time difference is not so great from Italy to the American East Coast, I think it's an absolute necessary step. And the players wanted to be there. They've made it very clear that they wanted to be there. And I think it should be tremendous.
That's all, folks.